we're getting some more news, and these player options are getting accepted and declined by all of these different teams. And this is giving us a better picture of what the Diamondbacks offseason is going to look like, as they've made some decisions on some options of their own, as they have picked up the options of third baseman Eugenio Suarez and for starting pitcher Merrill Kelly. Suarez's option was for $15 million. There were maybe some questions of whether or not they would take that on for next year, but I said last week that Eugenio Suarez feels like somebody that they bring in, they pick up his option. He can be that veteran third base presence. And then when they feel comfortable enough with Jordan Lawler to call him up and play third base, then Suarez will be kind of moved into a DH rotation / defensive, when we need to give the youngster a day off, kind of rotation as a bench piece. And for $15 million in today's Major League Baseball, that's not a bad insurance policy to have, because you don't know how long it's going to take for Jordan Lawler to be ready in the organization's eyes, to be up there and playing third base every single day for this team. And so to have that insurance policy feels like it makes some sense. And for Merrill Kelly, that option was $7 million. I know I saw Keith Law talk about that he thought that the Diamondbacks were going to decline that option. That didn't make a whole lot of sense. It's for like $7 million, and Merrill Kelly is one of the best starters that this rotation has. That was easy to pick up for this team. That was the easiest option in the world, because you add him to that rotation, and now you have Zach Gallen, you have Brandon Pfaadt, you have Eduardo Rodriguez, you have Merrill Kelly as the 4 that you're going with at the top of this rotation. Now, yes, we've talked about this. Jordan Montgomery is still back. He did pick up his option, but I do not think that's going to be a long-term situation. I think there is a chance that they trade him, or they try to give him a full offseason, but I don't think that that 5th spot in the rotation is absolutely his. And so when taking all of this into account, taking that they bring back Eugenio Suarez, taking into account that they officially picked up the option from Merrill Kelly, I look at this team, and maybe we need to make some adjustments to what this can allow us to narrow in our focus for what this team should do in the offseason. Because I mentioned it, the rotation: Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson right now is how it currently sits. Feel pretty good about the first 4 guys in that rotation. Zach Gallen, when he's on, is an ace. Merrill Kelly is a guy that just takes the ball every 5 days and goes out there and gives you a quality start. Eduardo Rodriguez, again, a guy to eat innings, middle of the rotation, guy that you want to give you quality starts. Brandon Pfaadt, your young 26-year-old starter that you're trying to build the future of this rotation around, right? Merrill Kelly's 36. Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be 32. Zach Gallen is only 29, but is he going to be here next year? So Brandon Pfaadt, the guy that you're trying to build this rotation around moving forward. And then you got Ryan Nelson, who's also 26, and at times last year showed that he had the stuff to stay in this rotation. So is there a pressing need to go out there and add a starter? You're probably looking to add some depth. You're probably looking to add some insurance policies as some AAA depth, because you can't go into a year with only 5 starters. You can't go into the year with only 6 starters, 7 starters. You need to be almost, 9, 10 deep with quality arms. Now, not to the level of Zach Gallen or Merrill Kelly, but you just need guys that you can trust to eat innings if injuries happen. You need to have high quality depth. You need to have major league caliber depth to be able to go 8, 9 deep in your rotation if need be. That's the way the game is going right now. Most of these guys will miss a start or 2, or skip a start or 2, or miss some time, a week or 2 with something. So you got to have depth. So that is still going to be something that this team looks at, but I don't think they'll be in the waters of the Max Frieds of the world or the Corbin Burns of the world. I don't think they'll play there. One, they're financially limited in what they can do being a smaller market team. So those guys are going to command probably too big of a dollar amount. And they feel comfortable with where their rotation is at right now. And so if they're going to spend big money, I think it's going to be on the offensive side of things. Now, don't discount Roki Sasaki if he gets posted. If he does come over from Japan, the Diamondbacks will be in on that. They've scouted him extensively. They're a West Coast type team, right? Even though it's not California or Seattle along the West Coast, I think it's close enough. It's closer than the East Coast teams, obviously. Money isn't going to be the factor there. It's going to be the sales pitch. And so if he does get posted and comes over from Japan, that is a name to keep an eye on because of the extensive work that the Diamondbacks have already done. And it wouldn't cost a lot. That's something that they could do. And honestly, that would be your Zach Gallen replacement, in my opinion. If they made that move and they signed him, it would be with the idea of, Zach Gallen's probably not going to be here for very long. Let's get a young pitcher over here that we can build him and Brandon Pfaadt around for the future. So that's how I see the starting pitching market playing out for the Diamondbacks. They're comfortable with the guys they have. They will look for depth. They will be in the Sasaki market if it develops, if he does get posted, if he is coming over to the United States to play Major League Baseball. But that's it. If they're going to add pitching, it is going to be depth, or it is going to be heavily focused on improving this bullpen. They've got their 9th and 8th inning guys settled. It's going to be getting arms into this mix so that you have different looks, different arm slots, different speeds, different pitch mixes. You're just going to try to add depth to that group and potentially add one higher leverage arm with Justin Martinez and AJ Puck to give you a 3-headed monster. Now, on the offensive side of things, Eugenio Suarez coming back means there's your third baseman. And so this team desperately needs a DH, and they desperately need a first baseman. And that's why I think they won't play in the waters for the big starting pitchers, because they'll be in the waters for a bat. Jock Peterson to decline his mutual option with the team, so he's set to hit free agency. Doesn't mean that these two sides couldn't reconvene right now during the winter meetings at a later date. There is an opportunity for a reunion, but he is going to test free agency and see what the market has for him. And so this team needs a DH. And I think in an ideal world, they slide Lourdes Gurriel Jr. back to the left field spot. They bring in a DH. Jake McCarthy is your left-handed bat off the bench, but also somebody that gives you defensive coverage if you want to make a defensive replacement late. And they need a first baseman because, again, I don't know if Pavin Smith is who they want to be their opening day first baseman next year. Those are the two glaring signs of upgrade for this team, DH and first base. They need to improve the offensive output from this team. You expect better from Corbin Carroll next year. You know what you're going to get from Ketel Marte. You know what you got from Lourdes Gurriel. You got 30 home runs from Eugenio Suarez in a down year. You need to get more out of this offense. Adding one or two more bats because you lost Christian Walker, so you have to replace him. Even if it's with just bringing Christian Walker back, they still have to go through that process. And so this team needs at least 2 high-quality bats this offseason. So that's probably priority number 1. And it probably is 1 and 1A with a high-leverage reliever if they wanted to create a 3-headed monster. So you're looking at an offseason that is focused on bats, first base bats, DH bats, power, thump, length to this lineup that certainly needs it, a high-leverage reliever to create a 3-headed monster with Justin Martinez and AJ Puck to allow you to, not every night, but most nights, make the game a 6-inning variety where you get to the latter stages. You're going to face this guy in the 7th, this guy in the 8th, this guy in the 9th. Good luck. That's where the Diamondbacks want to trend, and then they're going to add arms to have different arm slots, to have different pitch mixes, to have depth, lefty, righty, be able to mix and match, just add to this bullpen. That is where this team is going to live this offseason. So you can get excited now, start working on your wish list right now, start picking out the players that you think make sense for this team. But as it stands right now, according to Fangraphs, their estimated final payroll for 2024 was about $175 million. Their current estimated payroll for 2025, now this is with Jordan Montgomery opting in, this is with Eduardo Rodriguez being here, this is with Ketel Marte, Eugenio Suarez opting in, Lourdes Gurriel, all the contracts that are already there, Merrill Kelly opting in, right? All of that's on the books. They have arbitration projections for Zach Gallen, for AJ Puck. They project them to be right now at around $157 million for their estimated payroll right now. So there's not a ton of wiggle room. They're more than likely not going to go above the 175 number from last year. That number was inflated in large part due to the World Series money, in large part because Ken Kendrick wanted to reward the run that this team had, keep the window open, and so they spent more than they've ever spent. I think best case scenario, they match that number. So you're talking around $18 million to play with. So it's not a lot of wiggle room. And so it's why it's going to be almost imperative that they move Jordan Montgomery sooner rather than later. And even if they eat half the salary, that frees up $10 million. That could be a DH bat. That could be their 1-year stopgap solution. Jock Peterson last year, they signed to a 1-year, $12.5 million deal. So you trade Jordan Montgomery, you pay half his salary. That frees up enough for you to play in the DH waters. And then you have the other $18 million to do what you want. So there's not a lot of wiggle room right now. And so you start to wonder what other creative solutions this team could have. You start to wonder what other potential. So is a Zach Gallen trade potentially in the works to free up, at least according to Fangraphs, his arbitration next year would be $14 million. Do you free up that money and then allocate it somewhere else? What options are really on the table for this team? So DH, first base, high leverage reliever. That's it. That's where this team's going to live this offseason. And they'll make depth signings for the rotation. They'll make depth signings for the bullpen. And they will probably add a bench bat or two. But the big ticket items that this team has to try to figure out with limited capital is DH, first base, another high leverage reliever. That's the shopping list for Mike Hazen. That is the grocery list. That is what this team needs in order to fill some holes and put themselves in a position to be competitive in 2025 with limited resources. Because if we say they're going to match the 2024 payroll, that's $18 million to spend. I mean, I don't know if they'll meet that number this year. The more we talk about this, the more I think Jordan Montgomery's got to move so that they can free up any part of that money. Again, even if you pay half of it, if you pay 12 and a half of the 22 and a half and you just free up $10 million, that's one player. That's an addition to your team. That's a high leverage reliever on a 1-year deal. That's a DH on a 1-year deal like you did with Jock Peterson last year. That is the opportunity cost of keeping Jordan Montgomery at $22.5 million. So the more we talk this out and the more you look at the numbers, it screams to me that they're going to have to make that move.